Empress Catherine the Great is taking a surprise trip down the Dnieper River to survey her new kingdom. Her love, Grigory Potemkin, is a total babe, but also a lying, deceiving pile of trash for a human being who was really just trying to scam her out of a bunch of money, so he erected a bunch of phony portable settlements along the banks of the river to impress her. In this game, you're trying to fool the Empress into funding your phony village. You're the mayor, after all. And some of these structures will be real buildings to keep up the illusion, but others will be faker than my daughter when she tells me that her homework's all done. In Potemkin Empire, you'll be drafting interior cards which are either real or fake, and then it'll be up to you to combine them with the facades to construct an imposing, if not a bit flimsy, kingdom. Players will score by producing goods in their industrial buildings, exposing their opponent's fake buildings with spies, and constructing government and cultural buildings while passing off their fake buildings as real ones. The player with the most points at the end of the game will be the winner. To set up the game, put the game board in the middle of the table. Everything on or next to it is considered the supply. Then you'll need to shuffle the interior cards together to make the interior deck and place it next to the board. There are 5 kinds of facades: culture, espionage, government, industry, and science. Place all of the resource cubes and agent meeples into their corresponding sections of the game board. Make sure this includes the scientist and the shield meeple. Stack the 4-month tokens face up in descending order and place it on its space, and then give each player a player aid and a mode token. The mode token will show them which actions will be available to them in their play area. This starts on construction mode, so the players will have plenty of room to construct their village behind this token. The player who has most recently interacted with government bureaucracy is the first player, and they're given the capital meeple. The game takes place over 4 total months, and each month consists of 3 total phases: the drafting phase, the action phase, and finally the end phase. The drafting phase starts with dealing 4 interior cards to each player, starting with the first. Each player then proceeds to draft one of these cards in secret simultaneously. Do this by choosing and keeping one of the cards that you were dealt, and then pass the remaining cards in the direction indicated on the month token. For months 1 and 3, this will be clockwise, and for months 2 and 4, this will be counterclockwise. Repeat this until each player has 4 total cards. Once the players have all drafted their cards, the action phase begins. During this phase, the players will take turns performing one action, starting with the player who has the capital meeple. This proceeds until only one player is left in construction mode. If any player has the scientist meeple at the start of their turn, they are allowed to draw an interior card from the deck. The actions the players may take are listed on the tile in front of them, which will either be listed as the construction phase or the production phase. When the player's tile is on the construction side, they may build a building, use an action or a free action, spy with any of their spies, or produce one good in each of their industry buildings, but then they must flip this token to the production side. When a player has their tile on the production side, they may use an action or free action, or they may produce one good in each of their industry buildings. Now you might be thinking, this seems worse than construction, and you'd be correct. This design is intentional. When constructing a building, the player will need to decide what kind of building they would like to build. They will then get to choose from culture, espionage, government, industry, and science buildings. When they do this, they stand up a facade of that card type and they put it in their play area so that the back is facing them and the other players see only the beautiful side of the building. Then they place their interior card from their hand face down onto the base of the facade. The player must have at least one interior card in their hand in order to choose this action, bearing in mind that the players are not allowed to rearrange the facade or interior cards of their city because the facade card determines the type of building. For example, this interior building behind a science building would be considered real, but behind any other type of building, it would be considered fake and worth 2 points at the end of the game. Some of these will be listed as real buildings and other ones will be as flat out fake. Some interior cards also have card abilities. If you happen to have these card abilities on your interior card, you may use its effect by playing it from your hand. When you do, resolve the ability and place it into the discard pile. If it's a free action, it doesn't cost your action for the turn. You can play as many of these on your turn as you like, but once it's placed behind a building, its ability can no longer be used. Now, each of the building types have different abilities. Culture buildings will score 1 point for each culture building in your village at the end of the game. Additionally, after constructing a culture building, if the player has the most or are tied for the most culture buildings, then they gain the shield meeple from the board, or the player who currently has it. This helps protect the players from spies. Espionage buildings will allow the player to place an agent meeple behind it, immediately after it's constructed. In a later turn, you can choose the spy action to destroy an opponent's fake building. At the end of the game, players score 2 points for each building that they destroyed. Government buildings score 2 points for each government building in your village at the end of the game. Additionally, after being constructed, if you have the most or are tied for the most government buildings, you gain the capital meeple from the player who currently has it. This means that you'll take the first turn at the start of the action phase. Industry buildings will allow the players to take the produce action in a later turn. This means the player will place 1 resource behind each industry building in their village, and they'll score 1 point for each resource they have in their building at the end of the game. Science buildings allow the players to take the scientist meeple if they are tied for or have the most science buildings after they build the science building. This allows the player to draw an interior card at the start of their turn. But remember, there are actions other than building that the players may choose to take. If the players choose to spy, they may use any number of their ready agents to check opponents' buildings for authenticity. Agents are ready if they're behind your buildings. Once they're done spying, they are spent and set in front of their buildings, next to their mode tokens. All spent agents will be readied during the end phase, to use again on the next round. In order to spy, simply state that you're taking the spy action and then place an agent in front of each building that you wish to check. Once they're all placed, the corresponding building interior cards are revealed. If the building is fake, it's destroyed. The facade, all cubes, and any agent meeples that are behind that building are returned to the supply. Additionally, the player spying places that interior card face down under their mode token. At the end of the game, all players score 2 points for each building that they destroyed. If the building is real, then you place the interior card face up onto the table in front of that building so it's known to all of the players at the table for the rest of the game. Sometimes the spies will interact with other meeple and buildings in special ways. If the shield meeple is protecting from the spies, it must first be removed by spending an agent, and then the player can spend a second one to spy on that building. But let's be honest, if someone's protecting their building with a shield meeple, they probably have something worth hiding. If a building is destroyed in the player's village that has a scientist meeple, then that scientist is scared out of that village and it's returned to the game board. And finally, the stakes are higher in the espionage building for an agent when they spy on it. If this building happens to be real, the agent is killed and returned to the supply. If it's fake, the player who used the spy may immediately use that agent to check on an additional building. And finally, we have the produce resources phase. When you choose to produce, place 1 resource cube behind each of your resource buildings, even the fake ones. If you are not already in production mode, flip over the mode tile. If there's only 1 player still in construction mode, then the action phase ends immediately and all players move into the end phase. During the end phase, 4 things will happen. 1. Discard any interior cards remaining in the player's hands. 2. Reset all mode tokens so that the construction side is face up. 3. Ready all spy agents by placing 1 agent behind each espionage building if able. If you have more agents than espionage buildings, you must place 1 behind each before placing multiples if you have any. If you have no espionage buildings, then you may place them behind any of your buildings. And if you have no buildings at all, these meeple won't ready. 4. Return the current month token to the box. At the end of the 4th month, Catherine the Great arrives, ending the game and declaring the winner who she will shower with her riches. Then players will count up 2 points for each fake building, 2 points for each government facade in their village, 1 point for each culture facade in their village, 2 points for each interior card under their mode token from destroying other people's buildings, and finally 1 point for each resource cube behind buildings in their village. And that's how you play Potemkin Empire. Thank you so much for watching our How to Play video. Tell us in the comments below what kind of meeple you're the most like. A spy agent, a stoic shield meeple, or a crafty scientist meeple. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Be bold, play games, be you. Happy gaming!